graphics up. We're going to bring in Dujanet as well as champ, and I appreciate your guys' patience. It was a bit of a wild one, and we got a little bit of a late start, but it's been a fun show so far. We've been doing fun Halloween games and gimmicks in chat. People are learning all sorts of different commands and making some fun ghosts pop out at us. I know that it doesn't affect us live, but it's kind of fun for them back at home. Thank you so much, Dujanet, for joining us again. This is going to be an interesting game to break down because I hate to blame officiating, and but it's just how you have one week where there's no calls against you, and then this week where it's just some of these calls, where. And I don't necessarily blame our coach for not wanting to throw the red flag earlier on one that he should have,
Oh, I
because
do.
You think he should have just? But if every
Look,
call they're doing is against,
his players were screaming that it was not a catch. I mean,
yeah,
everybody knew it wasn't a catch. I've listened to people that were there in the booth said it wasn't a catch, and he just won't trust his guys. I
okay.
don't
Well,
know.
that's a problem because for me, it's like it was a very smart and quick play by the Eagles to get up to the line of scrimmage and get the next
Absolutely.
play off. So you just didn't even get a chance to see the replay.
But they knew it wasn't a catch. Anytime somebody's moving that fast, they're questioning. They
Right.
they knew daggone well it wasn't a catch. That's why they moved that fast. And when
Coach
you got
Rivera
your
had
players hollering that it's not a catch, you got to take that chance. I mean, what do you have to lose?
Yeah. Which
timeout.
is
He had a grandpa moment.
What, a timeout he ain't going to use?
Yeah,
Come on.
that's true. I worry that a lot of the calls when we did challenge and do stuff that weren't even going to go our way to begin with, and then you're just losing a timeout, So I don't know. I guess that's it's just problematic for me, and it's just like the Eagles fans don't want to hear it. I don't want to blame it on them. They outplayed us in the second half, but I mean, some of these things just felt like they changed the momentum in this game,
Look,
and
look, Eagles fans are going to say that because they won. But the bottom line is this: as a person who analyzes and watches and covers the NFL, we have had this problem all across the league. It's not just the Washington Commanders game; it's been all across the league. And in 2 weeks, the Philadelphia Eagles had no penalties. There's no way in hell. And then they had barely had any penalties in this game. And what
they're
I've
holding us
learned.
every time. Like I don't even. Our defense has
Oh,
no
there
chance.
was blatant holds. There were blatant holds all over the field that just never got called. But yet the little ticky tack stuff that really there was the same thing on both sides of the field were called against Washington. Look, the biggest problem that we have here with the officiating is this: all the veterans that used to be here have since gone and retired. Okay, so now you have a group of individuals who are young, new to this game, and new to really young in officiating. But see, here's my problem: to use that, to use that as an excuse when you're the NFL who has betting involved and people are betting on different things, you have to be better at that. They're not always going to be right. But case in point, in the fourth quarter, the clock was stopped at 2:05 on that catch that they deemed not a catch. Now they ruled it a catch initially. Then they didn't, then they called it an incomplete pass. But the biggest travesty is that they had no business reviewing that, period. It was before 2 minutes. The booth cannot review until after 2 minutes. That's the travesty. So it should have stayed a catch unless the Eagles wanted to challenge, which they didn't. But the rest reviewed it and they weren't allowed to review it. Those type of things are like elementary things of officiating.
Wait,
And
they reviewed it and said it was an incomplete pass.
they reviewed it
I
at
thought they, I thought, I thought they
2:05.
talked, I thought they talked about it and said it
Absolutely
was
not.
incomplete. Really?
Look, the man went to the daggone surface and was looking at it, and they reviewed it. And they said the ruling on the field stands as an incomplete pass when it's clear it was not an incomplete pass. But they had no business reviewing that. and they switched. It took them a while because initially they had ruled it a catch, and then they stood around and reviewed it they stood around and talked for a while. They ruled it an incomplete pass, and then they went to review it to make sure of that, which you can't do unless somebody challenges. Or unless
I think Ron. I think Ron
seconds.
challenged it.
Ron, I think challenged that one.
I don't think so.
No, he challenged it.
No, he did. I watched
the game. He challenged it.
I did too. So I'm not sure he challenged that.
No. What happened was
I even asked a colleague who was there because I wanted to be clear that they had no business reviewing it before the 2 minutes, and that's what the response I got. I was correct.
Well, the way it came off on TV was
it was ruled a catch.
It was ruled a catch. Then they said they talked about it and said it was incomplete, and Ron challenged it, and then they didn't reverse it. They let it stand.
Okay,
that's the way it came off on TV. That it was initially ruled a catch. Then they had a conference, said it was incomplete. Ron challenged it, and there was no evidence that they could reverse it, so they let it stand.
Yeah, I didn't even hear them say anything about Washington losing a timeout for the challenge either. So that's why I don't know. I've talked to a colleague, so
it's
I mean it may have been that way, but it
Eagles
seems like that was not.
An Eagles fan just joined us on Twitch chat, Keither37, and said that we did end up challenging that call.
Interesting.
So, yeah.
Either way,
we lost the timeout.
Either way, it's trash.
It was trash.
And the bottom line is that if the NFL wants to have betting and people are putting money on the line for these prop bets and different things like that, the officiating has to be more crisp. And I'm talking about if we want to miss big technical things, that's one thing. Missing elementary things is a problem, and it's been a problem for 8 weeks, and it gets worse every week. Every week.
Yeah.
So you either are okay with it or you don't care.
Yeah, it's very frustrating because, and it happened honestly. I mean, it's a completely different level, but in the girls' varsity soccer game that I was just at, I was taking pictures of for my team, and some of our fans maybe mouthed off to the official or at some point because she made a bad call. And for the rest of the game, she just had a vendetta against me. And they only have one official. It's 2 lines people, but it's only one ref that can make a call. And they were just full on checking us in soccer and just knocking us off the ball and just not called. And we would grab their shirt as they're blowing by us and like, oh, you grab their shirt. Like, wait, so they can full on check us, but you can't grab the shirt. Like, I mean, there's got to be, and the other team's a much better team anyway. So they didn't need the help, So we played a game, we lost 5-4, but like could have been a difference. And it's just frustrating that we're seeming to see this across all sports now that
I see it here in South Georgia and in football as well. It seems like the vaunted team that the county team that was stout in its day, it seems that they don't get a whole lot of respect on their own home field, and the officiating is horrific. It was horrific 2 weeks ago. It's been horrific pretty much the whole entire season this year.
Yeah, Keither was saying that it's a problem across all sports because the strike zone was all over the place in the NLCS, which I don't argue. I watched that game. It was ridiculous how bad that was. And quick side note, I think in baseball they got to go to a robot for that, and they still have somebody who's behind home plate managing the game, whatever, calling people out, at home plate, whatever, but just take that out. They don't need it. They don't. Right. We had the technology. They do VAR in soccer. They can freaking do it in this sport. Like I don't. I'm like
agreed.
We got to move past that. But anyway, back to football. But it's a good point, and where do we go from here, Dugenet? Because I felt like we played so well for so much of that game, and it was lost. Some poor coaching decisions, some poor officiating, but ultimately we just couldn't hang on. I thought we actually played a really good first half. We talked about how bad and these holes that we had dug ourselves in these trap games, and we didn't do that in this game, but we weren't able to put it together at the end. Same thing kind of happened in the other Philly game. And now we're kind of in this situation where we're going to New England, and we have to win a couple of these games here that are going to be pretty tough.
Yeah. And I have some notes here. The first half, Sam Howell had targeted 7 different receivers. He was 24, 26, 270 at 226 at the half. They had 270 total yards. They were averaging 6.3 yards per carry, per carry, I believe, in the run game. I had some notes of, they were mixing it up. The screens were working very well. It was an extension of the run. The offensive line looked like they were firing off the ball. They were blocking well. And it seemed like the run and the combination of the run and the screens allowed them to be able to impose their will on Philly's defense. And they pretty much had them off kilter pretty much all day, with the exception of the 4th down where he gets sacked. That was the only time that they really had anything going for them. Defense had played well. They had a forced fumble, one that they recovered. They had a sack. They held them to 182 yards, 6.1 yards per carry, per play. They had done well. I think what we're seeing here, though, is the lapse. It's week 8, and we're still talking about bad tackling. There are several plays that we watched where corners had the receiver dead to rights on a 3rd and long, 2 yards short of a first down, and they miss a tackle. And it goes for plus the allowed yards. So we're still talking about that. All this frustration up front, Jonathan Allen, acting pissed. Well, they have to be more consistent. If we have to call out the coaches, we have to call out the play on the field as well. And the front line has to do a better job of being more consistent, of being disruptive. Sometimes they're not, and sometimes they are. Yes.
I just felt like our defensive line actually played well. It's just they were held on these key plays. What are they going to do in that? I don't know.
And yes, and then I'm like, find a way. What are you going to do, right?
I know. I felt like our offense finally was putting something together, and he was looking good, and he was getting it out in rhythm. And I actually got to give the offensive coach some, play calling. I thought was better. We saw those screens.
It was great.
Yeah, I mean, Sam Howell only got sacked once. He only got sacked once. He came to the game with 40. Already, and he only got sacked once. So
exactly.
That's progress. That he only got sacked one time after coming in with 40. So I mean, what else can you say?
And they changed the offensive line combo. Brought in 2 guys, moved some things around, and the offensive line played well. That was something I was crying for all last week. That we've already seen the story on the guys you got out there, and they're just lookout guys. So now it's time to switch things up and put some guys in there and see what you can do with a different offensive line combo. And they held up a lot better.
Well, to be fair, Sadiq Charles is on IR, so that kind of helped. That kind of facilitated that a little bit.
True, but I would hope that they would have made some changes, some wholesale changes. There was no reason to keep that off, running that offensive line out there. They showed what they were capable of doing, and that was pretty much nothing. So, I like what they're doing right there. I think you come into this next game, you have to do the same thing. Defensively, though, a lot of guys pissed, but I don't see you pissed enough to continue to make plays consistently. Yes, they played well at times, but they gave up 38 points. That's the fact of the matter. They gave up 38 points when your offense put up 31. Yeah, I mean, we watching defenses. I keep saying it over and over again. We're watching defenses holding guys under 20 in close games repeatedly when their offense is going 3 and out. I mean, and this is a Monday Night Football game right here.
I thought the defense was actually playing pretty well until the end, and then Howell threw a couple of picks and put them in some bad situations where they got some easy scores. Right? I mean,
Howell threw one pick.
Yeah, but I mean, at the end there, that whole entire. I thought through 3 quarters they actually were doing pretty good holding them down. It was
honestly, I'll be honest with you, and I have some notes myself because I started taking notes in these games. Yeah. The first half they looked like world beaters. The Commanders did. They looked like world beaters. The offense looked really strong. Defense only had one turnover and gave up a touchdown. They were doing very well. It looked like they were doing well. Howell had a couple of very dangerous throws in that first half that were like, ooh, I don't know if you should have thrown that, son. But then the second half is when it all came tumbling down like Humpty Dumpty on the wall, honestly. And it was the fourth quarter where it was a total meltdown. One of the mistakes that the defense made, especially Del Rio, was putting Emmanuel Forbes on AJ Brown. That was a mistake.
By himself, though.
By himself.
No help.
No, absolutely no help. You put the rookie, who you already had to bench this season because he was struggling, on one of the best receivers in the NFL by himself, and he got burned. He got burned and he got exposed, unfortunately. And that was a big mistake on the part of the coaching staff. Like, if you see A.J. Brown going out there and going off, why are you not giving Emmanuel Forbes help over the top? Why is that not happening? So that was a big thing for me right there, was that Emmanuel Forbes basically on the island by himself with A.J. Brown, and A.J. Brown had his way with him. And that was ridiculous. The running game is still a point of contention for me. They did get a few good runs in with Robinson and with Gibson, but Robinson is still a little bit of a just trying to do the Manchata, whatever kind of.
I feel like he went more north-south last year. Am I wrong, dude?
He did. Oh, he
did. And that's
but
crazy.
I don't think he trusts his offensive line. I think that has a little bit to do with it, not to make excuses, but I do think that has a little bit to do with it. He just simply doesn't trust his offensive line. At times he does, and he did a good job at times, but yes, sometimes I don't think he's trusting his offensive line. And last week, I thought they had, he had some areas where he could have had runs and big runs, and he just made the wrong decision.
Yeah. I agree. It's just weird to me because I felt like this seemed different this year than we had seen in the past. And I don't know. I mean, I don't feel like our offensive line is that much worse than last year. I mean, I thought it was pretty bad last year. So maybe that's it. But they got to start to trust each other and push forward and, to at least get them on their heels so that way we can get the passing game going. I don't know. It's just, the whole thing is very frustrating.
But I think the offense did enough this week.
I do too. It's unfortunate that he did throw that pick in that moment. I just feel like because that was just a tough time. Also,
it was late. Yeah. It was another late throw, and this is what you're going to get. We talked about this earlier. This is what you're going to get with a guy who's basically in his rookie season, and he was a little late with the throw, and he telegraphed it, and it got picked. The corner did a good job of jumping the route. He shouldn't have thrown it. It was just late. But you're going to get those things. But yeah, man, I was really impressed with the offense. I hope that can keep going. And to add to Champ's deal, my biggest problem too, on top of the fact that the coaching staff is not giving their young corners help against some of the best talented wide receivers in the league. You're also, every time I turn around and we're in week 8, and yet we got guys that don't know who they're covering. There's some guys streaking 30 yards behind the defense and just waltzes into the end zone with an easy catch. This is
Devontae Smith should not have been that open.
Well, it's happening every dang week.
Yeah, that was such a busted coverage. That was ridiculous.
Though I will say Devontae Smith's touchdown did help me in fantasy. So,
right. I'll say the Lions are not going away from the running game. They just got a really nice 27-yard run there, and they take a big lead, 23-14 in this game with 3:13 left in the third. We're also still watching this baseball game. The Rangers are up 3-0 in this game 3, first one back in Arizona. But just as I said that, Arizona gets the first run on the board. Now it's 3-1. So we'll be keep on monitoring that as well. Keita said, did you talk about the catch that should have been challenged? Yeah, we did talk about it. We should have probably challenged that. It's just frustrating because it's like that kills momentum, right? and he was smart for during the hurry up. Yeah, we did definitely talk about it. All right, real quick, I know our time is short with you, Dujane. I do want to get your thoughts going into this New England game. We had a good first half and not a great second half. For the previous couple of weeks, we had a terrible first half and a great second half. How do we put this full game together against a New England team that's been really up and down this season? Sometimes they're a really good team and sometimes they're a pretty bad team. And how do you see this shaking out?
The defense, including his coach, needs to harvest their nuts. That's what needs to happen. All right. Enough with this talk and all this jaw jacking in the locker room after you done took a complete butt kicking. It's time for you to harvest your nuts now. All that daggone talk needs to be, and that frustration needs to be taken out on the opposing team. And, Ron needs to start trusting his guys. He wants his guys to trust him. Well, for once, for another season, it seems that he doesn't trust his own guys. And he needs to also realize that he doesn't need to be the big dick in the room, okay? Like, your voice isn't needed on the offensive side of the ball. Let your people coach. What you need to be worried about is that jabroni on the defensive side of the ball that keeps putting your defensive players that you went out and got because you needed ball hawks in bad positions repeatedly for 8 weeks. So, I don't know what to tell you. Another team that ain't doing so well, if the offense comes out and does its job and the defense can actually stop somebody instead of playing footsie the whole entire game, keeping them in the game repeatedly, every time the offense scores, you allow another long distance touchdown because you can't get people off the field on third down, then they might be able to win a game. But if the offense is going to score and the defense is going to continue to give up points, especially in the second half, every time they score, then we're going to be back here talking about another loss. And, by this time, somebody's got to go. But
we don't have a lot of time left on the season. If we want to try to turn this around, this has got to be the game that we do it.
And to close this too, all this talk about trading, I don't know what's going to happen, but I'm telling you right now, and all these fans tweet me about it's coming from the ownership. Bull crap. You think they trust these jabronis right here? You want this front office making decisions for you to get so-called draft capital? We can't even trust that they're going to make the right deal. If I'm this ownership, there's no way I'm letting these guys do anything with any players on when they're really on a 1-year deal. They're going to be out of here by February. So there's no way. 2, if they trade somebody, I'm telling you right now, you think your season is bad now, it is going to be a disaster. Those guys are a family in that room. And there's no way in heck that anybody on either side of the ball deserves to be traded. The bottom line is those coaches need to coach better, and they need to start owning what they're not doing and stop talking about what they're going to do and actually do it.
Amen.
But I'm telling you right now, if they trade somebody tomorrow, y'all might as well just start getting the bags and start doing whatever you're going to do when it comes down to booing this team and booing that garbage coaching that we're seeing on the field, because it's going to be a disaster. He will lose the locker room if he trades someone, and he's on his verge to losing it anyway. So that's pretty much what I got. That's what we're looking at right here. Bottom line.
Real quick, Robbie, could I get my thoughts on the Pats game while DJ is still on? I know he's pressed for time. I'm quick.
Go ahead.
Yeah, go for it.
So, only thing I've been thinking about with this Pats game is the words of the late coach Denny Green. They are who we thought they were. We know who the Pats are. So the big question is, are we going to let them off the hook? Or are we going to take it to them? That's the only concern I have with this Pats game. Are we going to let them off the hook, or are we going to stomp on their neck and crush the jugular? That's what I want to see from this team this coming Sunday. I want to see them crush the Patriots, because the Patriots are not a very good team. Mac Jones is not a good quarterback.
No.
And I want to see Del Rio bring the house to Mac Jones and see what he does, because the only receiver of note that they have is Juju Smith-Schuster. That's it. Jack. And he ain't doing nothing. So I want to see them bring the house, and I want to see Sam Howell have another game that he had against the Eagles, where he's out there hitting different receivers, and this offensive line is doing what they do. Brian Robinson stopped doing Spanish dances behind the line, doing all stuff, and going north and south. And I want to see this Washington Commanders team come out and absolutely stomp this team, because if they don't, Monday morning, I'm expecting someone to get a pink slip. If they lose to the Patriots, I'm expecting someone to get a pink slip on Monday morning. That's all I got.
It's interesting. If the Patriots are still favored by 3, but
I don't even care. If they lose to the Patriots, if no one gets a pink slip on Monday, I'm gonna have issues.
It's pretty sad that we're favored to lose, but also like way better than it has been in the past. Usually it's like we're expected to get destroyed there. So
the schedule doesn't get any easier, Robbie.
No, it definitely gets harder. So
Seattle, New York, Dallas, Miami.
We're 0-3 in the division. We still have Dallas twice and the Giants.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oof. Yeah, it's gonna get ugly pretty quickly if we don't start to rectify it. So I hope that we find a way for sure. But Dujane, let people know who was in last week's podcast. If people want to go check out what's already been done, and then also what you're going to talk about on this week's show.
Oh man. Last week we had who do we have? Oh, we had Darren Williams Jr. from the Inside the NHRA. He works for Competition Plus. We had him on talking NHRA, talking in Vegas, coming into Vegas. And we had man, you know how weeks go by. I can't remember who the second guest was. But we had some talk there, and we talked Commanders at the end. Our guest had to back out last week. Had some stuff come up with his son. So we're going to have him on this week, hopefully. And we're going to get a fan's point of view.
Jaleel Lewis, I think.
Yes, thank you. It's not 1999 anymore podcast. They do some great stuff over there too. We're hoping to have Rui Robinson, super fan, on this week. Hopefully he'll be able to have his schedule open to be able to do that, to talk Commanders. We're going to have the champ on in the second segment at 7:20, talking pro wrestling in the state of pro wrestling at this moment. It should be a fun topic, man. I'm really looking forward to that. And in the beginning, right now, everybody's at the SEMA show, so it's going to be me talking NHRA. I've got some things that I have to say about some of the things that the NHRA has done over the last couple of weeks. And you're going to hear me talk about it. And we're going to break down a little bit what we got coming up here, as we got a 4-horse race in Nitro Funny Car and Top Fuel coming into Pomona at the World Finals. Pro Stock Motorcycle and Pro Stock Cars pretty much wrapped up. Erica Enders is looking to get her 6th championship. And Gage Herrera with his 10th win in Vegas. That's tying a record. And he's looking to probably get 11 here at the World Finals, but he's pretty much wrapped up that championship as well. So Top Fuel and Funny Car are going to be the championships that will be on the line, and it's going to be fireworks, man.
Sounds good. Well, definitely check out the Not Bland show. All the links are in the description of this. So if you're watching on Facebook, the DJ Command and his graphics are appearing live here on Twitch. Also will be in the show notes of the audio podcast and of the YouTube as well. Dujane, thank you for being a part of this team. Look forward to hopefully having a better and maybe a victory Monday. It's been a couple of weeks since we've had one of those, and I would really like that next week for sure. And then hopefully we'll have Hurt back if we can get a win. So, but I really look forward to having Champ on your show. That'll be a lot of fun on Wednesday, and it should be really a great time. Thank you so much for your time as always, and we'll talk to you soon.
All right, brother. Y'all have a good show, man.
Take care, DJ.
Later.
Thank you.